Hello, everybody. So I'm Nick, and I'm the Director of User Experience at The Guardian. And tonight I'm going to convince you that the only way out is through. And I'm going to talk really about speed and how you can kind of use speed to disrupt a large organisation. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do at The Guardian in terms of how we're getting kind of quicker and better at doing the things that we do. And I think it kind of boils down to this for us, which is making things that people want to use, which I've kind of shamelessly stolen from John Wilshire and kind of reinterpreted for my own kind of reasons. But we want to make things that are simple, make things that are enjoyable, and make things that are kind of good for the business. And these kind of values are what me and my team kind of have, and they're the things that we think about really on kind of everything that we work on, whether we're working on internal tools or websites or apps or kind of other kind of internal projects. How can we make things that people want to use? So, Marty Cagan. Do people know who Marty Cagan is? No? Okay, I will explain. Big kind of Silicon Valley, big kind of West Coast guy, lots and lots of kind of product experience. And he's a big friend of The Guardian, and he often comes and chats to us about product, and he comes and chats to us about digital transformation, and he does kind of courses internally. And about 18 months ago, came into The Guardian, and he was kind of chatting to various people, having various meetings. And he was kind of saying, you know, things are going well, you guys are doing some kind of things quite interestingly. But one thing he said was this: you guys are still too slow. And he kind of, you know, it's not really something that you want to hear, the truth kind of hurts, but it's pretty true. But why are we still too slow? So we started thinking about what are the things that we do. We're agile, we have stand-ups, you know, we've all read all the lean books, you know, we've done all the reading. But what makes us slow? And I think in conversations that we had afterwards, we started thinking about, you know, we're slow in terms of ideas, and started to kind of drill into that sense of, you know, slow at coming up with ideas, maybe slow at kind of working through ideas. But the more we looked at it, actually, we're not slow at coming up with ideas. The Guardian has got hundreds of ideas. We're brilliant at coming up with ideas. There's kind of ideas coming out of everywhere. There's some sort of terrifyingly intelligent people that work at The Guardian. You know, we're not short of ideas. However, what we are good at is killing ideas really quickly, or taking an idea and building it until the bitter end and launching it before we find out if it actually works. And there's kind of no space in between. And I think that fact that there's kind of no space in between was kind of, that was what was making us slow. And the problem is, if you kill ideas really quickly and then have some ideas that you build all the way through, you kind of miss out on these, which is what Peter Thiel talks about when he talks about the good ideas that look like bad ideas. So if you're really, really good at kind of killing what you think are bad ideas, which big organizations are really good at, and Ben Horowitz has been talking about this recently on some of the talks that he's been doing, you miss these. And, you know, Jonathan Ive talks about the fact that ideas are quite fragile. You know, they need kind of nurturing and tending. If you kill them really quickly, they kind of disappear. And if you miss out on these, you're missing out on kind of possibilities to do kind of innovation. And I think that was some of the things that Marty was kind of talking about in terms of being slow. I set the team a challenge. Get faster at finding out if stuff works. And what I'm going to talk about is just a couple of examples that we've done in the last 18 months since Marty came in and kind of said to us that we were slow. The first one I'm going to talk about is what we call the idea sprint. And it's something that we did on our apps project around personalization. People heard of Google Ventures? A few more nods than Marty. So Google Ventures talk about this thing which is the 5-day product design sprint, where they will kind of come into an organization, set up a 5-day process, and go through the whole sort of process of coming up with startup ideas. I kind of thought we could do better than this. We could do it in 4 days, and we could have Friday off. You know, that would be kind of nice for the team. So that's what we did. So on the first day, we pretty much had a briefing session with the whole team. These were some kind of behavioural sort of personas or prototypes that we created, and sort of attitudes of people. Set up a briefing session with the whole team, you know, talked about the KPIs that we have for personalisation for the app, talked about the strategy for the app, you know, what were we trying to achieve? Really kind of, you know, sounds obvious, but starting with the brief. We then held a series of workshops. Key thing about these workshops is they're with the whole apps team from the very beginning. So you've got the devs there, you've got QA, product owners, UX researchers, editorial stakeholders as well, but everyone's there from the very beginning. We said to them, you know, you need to block out these 4 days. Series of workshops. By the end of the first day, we had 103 ideas. So, you know, again, we're not short. We're not bad at coming up with ideas. So by the end of the first day, we'd kind of voted and started to prioritise those 103 ideas into things that we thought were most suitable for the project that we were working on. And day 2, we started kind of bringing them to life. So hacking them either through paper prototypes. Some of the devs were kind of making little ideas, hacking things together, just putting some shape on those ideas and sort of seeing how they worked. End of the day, we had those 8 hacks. Day 3, started testing a couple of those concepts. So we're really lucky at the Guardian. We have this great UX studio that we built when we first set up the team. Bring people in and kind of chatting to them about, not could they use these ideas, because they weren't really ideas that they could use, but would they use them? So doing research and kind of testing for appeal. So it's not really about usability, it's really understanding, you know, are these ideas going to add value to you as a user of this app? Started shaking them around, brought in kind of 7 or 8 people, chatted to them throughout the day. I've blurred their faces because obviously they haven't signed release forms for this talk. But sticking ideas in front of people.
I thought they were characters from Minecraft.
Or that. That's a better idea. That was day 3. Still going, lots of coffee. And day 4, we kind of brought it all back together. So by the end of day 4, we whittled it down to 2 ideas, and they were the 2 ideas that we thought were the best in terms of taking the app forward and pushing it forward in terms of some of the things that we're looking at around personalization. I'm not going to tell you what they are, because there's lots of media people in the room, but they're going to be coming to the app really soon. And there's a kind of short-term idea and a long-term idea. And this process, I think, we learned a lot about what we could do in terms of the Guardian. Not, you know, can we do it? Not sitting around talking about kind of becoming more nimble or more lean, but actually proving to the team and to kind of ourselves that we could do this. And, you know, and we could do it in 4 days. We're better than Google, 20% better. Second form of product discovery I'm going to talk about is what we call the idea stress test. This was on web, so the different teams are apps, and this was on density. So have any of you used our beta website since we launched it in February? Any Guardian readers? Good, good, okay. So we decided to develop our beta site in the open, which has been great and also terrifying at the same time. And when we first launched the beta site back in February, we had a problem. And we realized what that problem was really quickly. And we had a problem, and we kind of called it density. And density was kind of broken down into various angles. But the first one was people couldn't get an overview of the news when they first come to the site. That key user need, that key kind of, I want to know what's happening right now. I want to kind of feel connected to the world. I want an update on what's happening. They couldn't get it, or they couldn't get it quickly enough when they first came to the site. And we had a problem. We were getting a huge amount of negative feedback around that. There was also some internal feedback as well. So we've kind of built the site using containers, and that's probably a separate talk. There's a blog post up on the site around that I've written. But the containers that we had on the site weren't really working internally either. So there was lots of feedback from editorial saying, this is not really giving us a way that we can showcase all our great content. So we write about 500 stories a day on The Guardian. That's a lot of content. And a huge amount of traffic, even though people talk about the death of the homepage, a lot of our traffic still comes through the homepage. It's around kind of 25, 30%, and that hasn't changed over time. You look at that New York Times graph, the sort of death of their homepage, we haven't seen that at all. The homepage is still really important to us. And it's also a kind of totem inside the organization as well. And we made some kind of initial assumptions about how we were going to solve this problem. Again, key to this kind of product discovery, start with a brief. Don't start, you know, don't just start. You need to do the thinking before you kind of start doing the making. So we did some ideation, we did some concepting, we did some kind of paper prototyping around this idea, around this problem of density, how we were going to solve it. And rather than bringing people into the lab, we kind of thought this time, can we do it even quicker than that? Can we do it even faster than that? Can we iterate even quicker than those kind of 4 days that we had? So we set up a user panel. So rather than bringing people into the lab, we stuck a banner up on the top of the mobile site saying, do you fancy helping us out? And early adopters kind of said yes, and they're really kind of willing to help us out. Within 24 hours, we had about 350 people saying, you know, we're happy to help, send us whatever you want. Had our concepts, had our user panel. How can we iterate this problem of density as fast as we can in a week? And we did 4 iterations in a week. Set it up on the Monday. On the Tuesday, showed it to 5 people. Got the feedback, iterated on that idea. The next day, showed it to another 5 people. Again, got their feedback, iterated on that idea. The next day, showed it to 20 people. And followed that process kind of through. What we learned quite quickly is it's really hard. It's really kind of pressurized. People get very precious. You just need to kind of push through it. You know, the only way out is through. The other thing we learned that because we've got a brilliant kind of international audience, if you can get people in the US and Australia to kind of give feedback, they're kind of doing research for you while you're asleep. So you come in the morning and you've got their kind of feedback and you can iterate quickly on those ideas. So that kind of international perspective that you get through a panel was something that we really learned for this. That's not something you can get using the UX studio that we have in London. This one I can show you because it's live on the site. So by the end of that week, we were in a kind of pretty good place. And where we got to was this idea of headlines and highlights. And it's this sense of people really wanting that overview of news really quickly, but how can we also showcase the kind of best of the Guardian and the best that the Guardian has to offer on a daily basis? And what we worked on was, it's not really the first kind of page scroll because people scroll. We've luckily moved past that painful point of the fold, but it's about that first impression. What's that first impression that you have when you come to the Guardian homepage? So we hit you with the headlines, what's happening right now. You can find that out really quickly. And then you scroll down and we hit you with the highlights, which is much richer, much more immersive, much more around that kind of discover mode that you might have, which is show me something new about the things that I'm interested in. You know, we know if you're coming to the Guardian homepage, that's showing quite a strong signal of intent. These are some of the things that you're coming to the Guardian homepage for. These are some of the things, our sort of quality journalism. We've had a really good response to this so far. I'd be interested to hear if you're a user of the Guardian, what you think of the kind of, whether we've solved that density problem. But certainly in terms of the feedback that we've had recently, lots of that negative feedback has gone away. And we're feeling really confident in this in terms of launching it next year. So, 2 different ways to kind of do idea validation or product discovery. And 2 ways to do them really, really quickly. Speed plus focus equals momentum. So one of the things we learned, it's not just speed for the sake of it. That doesn't really work. Don't just do a hack day. Don't just start. That's a terrible idea. You need to work out what you're going to focus on. And if you can do it quickly, you end up with momentum. And the sort of transformational effect of momentum on a team is incredible to see. You can see a team that have been churning, that have been going around in circles, that are I wasn't going to swear, James, sorry. That are annoyed with what's been happening. And you kind of take them through this process, and the amount of throughput that you get, it transforms that team. You know, they suddenly only want to work in this way. They don't want to go back to that old way of working. Number 2, you can build things that people want to use quickly. You know, you don't need to build them out and launch them. You can validate ideas. You can understand, you know, the value that people have, and you can do it quickly. It's uncomfortable, I won't deny it. There's lots of doubt. You know, when we first suggested these kind of approaches, people thought we were insane. I didn't even think we could do it. Well, I knew that we would. But, you know, you have lots of doubt, there's lots of lots of negativity, but you can do it. It's uncomfortable, but you can, and it's kind of transformational at the end. And number 3 is the kind of summary of those, really, which you can disrupt how you work using product discovery. And I think, you know, we talk a lot about people at The Guardian, we talk a lot about process, and we kind of work on both of them together to kind of create great work. But we've really changed how we work now, you know. Hopefully when Marty comes back, I think he's coming back in the new year, he won't still be slagging us off, he'll be saying kind of other things. But what was interesting when we did the density work, we called it the kind of density time box. And what was interesting after it was kind of circulated through the rest of the organisation is other parts of the business started talking about doing time boxes. So they were kind of saying, we've got this problem here, maybe we should do a time box for that, or we've got this problem here, you know, could we do a time box there, and coming to talk to us and saying, how did we do it? And that for us was really kind of interesting, and I think that's how you can kind of disrupt an organisation from the inside, and changing how they talk, even changing the language that they use to talk about how they work. And that's it. Thank you.